Yeah, welcome back. You're watching Editors Forum, and we are talking about the big stories that happened in the week. We dealt with the vetting of Chief Justice nominee Justice Sophia Kufu. We have dealt also with the Savilugu clashes and the attacks there on Hajia Aishetu.
I hope you're running up on
the president's nominee at the place who has now been endorsed by 78% of the assembly members as required by law, in order that she will become MC for the area. The MPP youth, including executive, say over their dead bodies, they will not allow her to work. They actually went and locked up her office. The recommendation is the police and the government must call their bluff and let her do her work. We are dealing with another vexed issue which has to do with a towing levy, a levy which has been imposed on everyone and is supposed to start on July 1st. That everybody who owns a vehicle or a motorcycle has to pay this levy, so that a number of companies, so one company led by the Road Safety Management Services, some convoluted name, they will tow all the cars so that will reduce accident. Some say this is create, loot and share. My guests are Winston and Wolanyo. Let me start with Winston. When you heard...
You want to start with me, eh?
When you heard that this is going to happen on July 1st, what was your first reaction?
Well, my first reaction basically was, why a towing levy? I mean, why do we need a towing levy, and why do we need a private company to do so? I mean, I thought the initial responsibility was on the district assemblies and the Ghana Police Service to do this job. As an indication. They failed. But if they failed, why don't we, equip them to do the job rather than, giving it off to a private company, which would take 85%, one company, 85% of the revenue, and give the police 5, Rail Safety Commission 5, and I think the Ministry 5.
Yeah, Ministry of Finance 1.5, and
yeah,
then,
I mean, for me, but you see, talking about this being a case of create, loot, and share, you ask yourself a very simple question: who's behind all of this? The Road Safety Management, the Road Safety Management Services Limited. Yeah. Who's behind that?
Oh, it's a subsidiary of the Jospon Group.
We know them.
The parent company of Zoom Lion.
We know them.
Yes.
We know what they do.
Well, I'm Zoom Lion. We know that they are a sanitation company.
We know what they've been involved in the past. We know what they've been involved in the past. Were they implicated in any report in the past?
Yes, we know that the GIDA report implicated
them. So they were implicated in a report. We know they were, some years ago, they were banned by the World Bank itself from having contracts in Liberia.
But that ban has been lifted.
Hold on. And we go ahead and give the same company, the same entity, this contract. Now, I spoke to the communications director, okay, on my
communications director of Road Safety Management.
Yes, I think
Roland Walker.
No, not that one. I think it's of the Road Safety Commission also.
Okay.
Yeah,
National Road Safety
Commission, yeah. And on the 3FM 92.7.
Etuaheni? Is it
yes, Kwame Etuaheni. Great. And together with a police inspector from the MTTD, yeah. And he acknowledged, Kwame Etuaheni acknowledged that as we speak, they do not have all the towing vehicles necessary to do this. Ask them. Find out. Kwame Etuaheni told me that, I mean, yes, they've zoned the country. But in zoning the country, they're starting with not all the vehicles that will be needed to ensure the smooth running of the program.
They don't have to wait to get all of that before they start.
Which hurry are we in? My brother, why can't we equip the police to do this job? Why?
Because the state doesn't have the money.
The state doesn't have the money. And so the state would partner with a private company to provide not so many equipments to meet that and then make money. And, yesterday on Newsfile, you watched it. You heard, I think, Kofi Bente making the point that in the contract that he has seen, there is nothing, there's no punitive, there's no sanctions if they do not perform their functions.
In fact, the contract actually says that the National Road Safety Commission shall not give them any instructions on how to undertake their operations.
Is this the kind of contract you sign and you hand over between 20 to 200 Ghana cedis to an individual who has a record in this country?
The contract is a 20-year contract.
I think this is another case of create, loot, and share. We do not need office, at best, if I would go for a towing levy, I would say that individuals, okay, should pay the assemblies, okay? Let the assemblies tow these vehicles. Because you're told, for instance, that they will tow it to a certain, workshop.
Yeah, they have depots.
They have depots.
They will tow it to their depot. And then you go
You've
and
seen
pick
their
them.
depots.
Have
you seen their depots?
Roland Walker said they have 40, if I remember, 44
depots throughout the country. Throughout the country.
Have you seen one?
No.
Have you even seen one?
Let's go by the 40. Let's just believe it. Have you seen any of those depots? You have 44 depots in this country. And you have less than 150 towing vehicles. I think it's even less than 100. They need in excess of 300 to do this. You don't have the requisite logistics.
It's better to start somewhere.
My brother,
they start with Accra.
No, Ghana is not Accra. Many of the times,
No,
the mistake.
what I meant was that they can start with the trunk roads.
The mistake we make.
They can start with the trunk roads. Accra, Kumasi, Accra, Accra, Takrady.
My problem.
Yes.
My problem is that the mistake we make. Every individual must be responsible for the life of that person behind him. When you're a driver, I have listened to the Road Safety Commission before. There's one statement I've never forgotten when I spoke to a certain road safety man. He said, what if? And so if I am driving, for instance, and it's even at midnight, so long as the traffic light works, I would stop. Because you might think there's nobody coming. Somebody might just, from nowhere, smash your car. You must be responsible for the road user behind you. Okay? If you have a broken down vehicle, you must get that person. Yeah, district assemblies around.
That's what the current law says.
So the current law says that. So why don't you make the law work?
The current law
says. You see, we look for an easy way out in this country so we can sometimes get some small monies. Why don't you make the current laws work? Are we telling ourselves that we have failed so much that what we have decided to do is to institute another way of getting money from the public? What at all is... Look, I have a problem, Malik, and I'm passionate about this because I hate it when we always try to make the people worse off and make another person better off. We want to rip the people off. You think that's what's happening here?
That's just
I am going to pay between 20 cities and 200 Ghana cedis. For what? In some areas, you don't have the towing vehicles there. So what you would see, that you have 44 garages. That one I've not even seen one, but let me believe it. You would have instances where we would come back. It says there's something that we say. In a man that if you know somebody's past, you can predict his future. You know that? Do you believe in that? If you know somebody's past, you can predict his future. We have seen this before. I hope it doesn't become another one.
Let me talk to Walanya on this one. Walanya, there are those who say that if you look at the current Road Safety Act, the law says if you use a private vehicle and you leave, or if you leave your car within townships, you have 1 hour within which to remove it, and the responsibility is you, the car owner. If you leave your car on the trunk roads or on the major highways, you have 2 hours within which to remove it. Your dad is the police. We know that the police have struggled to enforce this law. It is on the basis of the failure of the police and the National Road Safety Commission and the various district assemblies and the metropolitan and municipal areas that this idea came about, that levy all vehicle owners, create a pool of money, and then engage private companies so that they do the towing and then they take their money. It sounds reasonable.
It sounds nice politically. It sounds nice politically, my brother. How many assemblies we have in this country?
216.
216. Do we have police stations in all these places? This is a job the police has been performing all these years. So, we are crying that the police doesn't have equipment to do this job. And we are giving 85% of between the 20 and the 200 Ghana to a private company. To do what?
So that they can tow the vehicle because they have the capacity.
And the police have been doing this. It traditionally has been their job. You are not even giving this money back to the police, my brother. You are not giving the money to the police to go do what they've been doing. We should give the money to an entity to do what?
So that they will tow the vehicles
Tow
off the
what
roads
vehicle?
and minimize accidents.
And you are saying 44 garage was a park. Have you seen one?
I haven't gone
seen one?
I haven't gone looking.
And we are signing a contract with an entity with a questionable image.
There's no basis to that because this
What are
road
you
safety
talking
management
about?
services
What are we
limited.
talking about here?
Hold on, Walani.
Look, if we take that 20 and 200 and we give to even the patrol teams and all those other people, I can tell you that this whole police harassment on the roads, 10 city, 5 cities will even stop because they will not let us divert this money. Let us give this responsibility. Probably let's legalize it and empower the police properly.
Is your problem?
My problem is
the company which is going to
boss,
do
my
the
problem
work
is not
or
the
the
company.
idea
I am
itself?
saying that we already have an entity doing. Boss, have you been to the barracks before? The police tow all those accident vehicles back into the barracks. So what vehicle assembly point are they talking about? What park or garage or what are we talking about here? Have you seen me? I want to even see one. All the accident vehicles. And you see, we make one mistake in this country. We ascribe all the foolish things that happen to us.
Well, I know, easy. I don't want
And
to.
it is
don't
because-
use the word foolish again.
No,
Thank you.
I will not use the word because you see, when I sit here and you tell me that somebody enters into this studio and blows my head off, you tell me, oh, Nyamenim say, who told you God wanted to take me violently like that? Who told you? Because you see, we have sat back quietly and allowing this thing to fester. Indiscipline. Boss, this thing about this, look, I will say one thing. Ghanaians, let us not pay any money. No policeman can enter your house. No whatever it is can enter your house and do anything to you.
But
I'm saying let us refuse.
Do you know that is going to be tied? Is going to be tied to your roadworthy certificate.
Boss, how much? Do you know the number of cars that even go through from between Tema and Accra? The number of cars that run through the toll booth. How much they even pay? If we decide to even give a quarter of that amount to the Ghana Police Service, they will be able to acquire all the towing vehicles in 6 months. In 6 months, we are giving 85% of what? To who?
Winston.
What are we talking about? Do you know the number of cars you have in this country?
Okay, I'm talking to Winston now. Thank you.
You talk to Winston. He will be nice with you.
The
if I don't invite me on this program again.
well, I'll take it easy. The National Road Safety Commission says that 20% of road accidents are attributed to stationary vehicles that have been abandoned on the roads. And 20% of all accidents, and there are thousands.
Malik, I don't want to cut you in, but let me make a point here. You see, Lee Kuan Yew, when he was president, made a law. He said that animals that roam the roads of his country in the capital, animals, he gave authority to the local assemblies to arrest those animals, slaughter them, and feed them to orphanages. In less than 1 year, all the people who were keeping their goats and cattle and all those foolish things took them to the villages to go and keep them. Don't worry, to go and keep them.
Well,
you
just
worry.
breached their promise to me.
Don't worry. To go and keep them in the villages. What are we doing? We've lost a lot of quality human resource to road accidents.
Right.
Stationary cars. And I'm saying that this money we are going to take, I'm saying that we can save a lot more people if we direct the police. I am saying that, in fact,
okay, I've heard enough.
I'm appealing to the IGP.
I've heard your views on this one.
Put in a write-up to the chief of staff and through to the president that this money should come to your people. You'll be able to eat more. You'll be able to work well. You'll be able to tow all the cars to the barracks. You'll be able to tow off all those things by using this 85%
thank
money.
you.
We should stop this.
So we are told that 20% of road crashes come from stationary as the result of stationary vehicles, people running into them. So any policy to remove these vehicles and eliminate this should be welcome.
You see, Malik, I am not saying that these vehicles should not be removed. I am only saying that the police can remove these vehicles.
That is it.
That's
They've
all
been
I'm
doing
saying.
it. They've been doing this all the time.
Doing it. So if the police has any problem What you do is to what?
Empower them.
Is to empower the police so they can do this. I have a problem. When you give it to a private entity, which cannot be instructed by the National Road Safety Commission, it's like you've given them, a free lunch. They can do everything they want. Seriously. I mean, if you don't even want to give it to the police, you ensure that the district assemblies will do this.
But they don't have the capacity to procure
that
these
money that
vehicles.
you're taking, 20 cities. How many vehicles are there in Ghana? You want to find out the number
Roughly
of
about
vehicles?
2 million.
2 million a year, 40 million.
And a vehicle will pay not less than 100 cities because the big vehicles will pay 200.
No,
Ghana
and are you
cedis.
saying that
The
we
20
can't?
cities is
No,
for
are you
motorbikes,
saying that with that 40 million and some other monies from the state, we cannot purchase these towing vehicles for the district assemblies or for the Ghana Police Service to do this job?
Come on.
And so for 20 years, we're signing our lives to a private
The contract
company.
says the rate will be reviewed every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
At
Review to where? Low or up?
Or review.
Well,
So
review-
it can
review
go
what?
up, it can go down. But I know it will go up. So the point is simply this. This cannot be. I am saying that this contract is a bad one. I've said it
It's filthy. Say it.
on my morning show. No, I choose my words.
It's smelly anyway.
Don't choose your word. I mean, I've said this is a bad one. And I would want to see the state not engaged in this. I am not a prophet, but I see trouble. I see us coming back, another committee, saying we signed this contract, they did not do the job, they have taken lots of monies from us. Because look, if they do not purchase all the vehicles, Malik, what happens? They've told they're going to purchase vehicles, right? If they do not purchase all the vehicles that they need to do this job, what do you do to them? Oh, no, what do you do to them per the contract? What do you do to them? They're supposed to purchase vehicles. They're supposed to ensure that these vehicles, these stationary vehicles are towed off the street. They do not do that. What happens to them? They say they're supposed to carry it to, a garage. They don't have the garage.
Can I ask a question?
Hold on. I'm the one asking the questions.
No, but I want to put this
No,
out.
hold on. Let me
the
ask.
Ghana Highways Authority,
ask
the
my
Ghana
question.
Highways Authority
Olanyo,
alone
I'll listen to you.
makes
Let me ask
over
my question.
36,000 Ghana cedis daily from those tolls we have been paying on the motorway and other places. Daily. Boss, do you know what it means?
Let me ask my
Do you know
question.
what 36,000 Ghana cedis means daily? And in a week, in 2 weeks, and in 1 month? What I'm driving at is that, you see, we are even not making, we are not even trying to even help the police to even help us. The people we are even attacking, by the way. We are not helping them to help us. We should, you see, boss, do you know,
Well, you see, listen to me. Thank you.
I am listening to you, my
There
brother.
are those who say, if you take this
the policy
money,
makers, to the point that I sit in a country,
thought you were
or
listening
a
to
country
me.
of which myself and you, we pay taxes, and you are telling me that the National Road Safety Commission cannot even instruct this private entity to do anything.
that's
We're
what is
putting
in
this
the
on
contract.
paper.
That's what is in the contract.
Thank you. That
And
we will be slaughtering ourselves like that. in
There
this
are
country.
there are those who say their problem with this arrangement is that there is no correlation between the money that they will take and the services that they will render. For example, we are not saying that when they tow 10 vehicles, pay them on
And
the
that's the
basis
more reason why
of
the contract should be abrogated.
it is not like
That is
pay
the
them
more
on the
reason why
basis
we
of
don't
the
have to
number
let
of
this
vehicles
contract hold.
that they tow. We are just saying give them a certain percentage of the total amount. So whether they tow 0 vehicles or 10 vehicles or 1,000 vehicles, they will get the same amount.
Can I ask you a question? I'm saying that. Is this responsibility a new responsibility? My argument is very simple. You see, when we take this argument in a pedestrian way, let us take it to the street. Go and ask the driver at Makola or Tema Station. Go and ask him. Who have been performing this job traditionally? Who? Is it not the police?
Yeah.
How do the police even, till now, the police even doesn't charge for towing your car to the barracks, so my brother. They do not. So if they do not, and we are seeking to create a situation where myself and you, we can drive safely on the road and not get, we don't run into a stationary vehicle and then lose human resource to this country. Do you know the number of, in fact, the number of but this number I've quoted that. How much does it even take to buy a towing car?
There are
You are not buying that for the police service, oh. You are giving it to a private entity who, as I'm talking to you now, cannot tell us where the number one, even in Accra here, I'm on this forum, editors forum. I'm asking a very simple pedestrian question. How many of those parking lots do we even have? We don't even have anything. The police tradition, and you see, what is even hurting is that if we are not very careful, cars will be parked, articulated trucks, and other cars will be parked on the road, and the police, even being on the same road on patrols, will say, it is not my responsibility because government has given it to somebody. And that is when both of us will go run into those cars.
Winston, there are
and
those
what are we talking about?
There are those who say, even the
let us
road
not sound
safety
too nice about legality, about these are the things that are killing us. We know the problems. We know who can solve the problem. We have refused to give them. We are giving a private company 85% of between 20 and 200 Ghana cedis.
You have made your point. Winston, there are those who say
let's stop joking in this country.
Even the 20% of road crashes being attributed to stationary vehicles is itself in doubt. Their point is, first of all, we don't have any statistics showing us how many accidents are caused because there are no street lights on our roads. We don't have statistics that show us how many accidents are as the result of speeding. And that if we were to provide street lights on all the roads in Ghana,
impractical.
If we were to mount cameras on all the streets, that will pick people, the number plates of vehicles that are speeding, and find them, and were to keep everybody driving within speed limits, you will significantly reduce the accidents. And that the claim that 20% of accidents are caused by stationary vehicles is just being pegged without any scientific proof.
Well, but what is not in doubt is that there are accidents caused by stationary vehicles. That is not in doubt.
Yes.
I agree with you on all the things that you're talking about. But what is also not in doubt here is that this contract must be abrogated. That's not in doubt, because we cannot do this.
You are advocating a second abrogation because there was an earlier contract.
I am saying that I would only support a contract with the Ghana Police Service.
Thank you.
I would only support a contract with the district assemblies. I would not support a contract with a private entity.
So your problem is a private company and not the toll.
Who is currently
so you are willing to pay the levy?
We are more people on the road to pay the levy as
levy.
long as it is going to the Ghana Police Service.
That's it.
Because for the Ghana Police Service, they have a responsibility. You see, the private man looks at money. One of the things we have refused, we haven't realized in this country. Years ago, when we reduced ad valorem taxes on rice, they didn't reduce it. You remember when we had the recession?
Yes, yes.
They didn't reduce it.
That's in 2007.
You've heard of the reduction in what of input duty on spare parts.
Spare parts.
Go and check. They'll tell you that the ones they brought last year, they are still there. They are selling them before they reduce them. So for the private man, you must always be careful how you deal with a private man. If the state can do something and do it well, why don't you equip the state institution to do it and do it well, rather than paying it to a private person who we know? Now, we'll come back and tell us, this is a situation, whether they carry vehicle, they tow vehicles or not, they take the money, 85% is gone. We have about 2 million vehicles in Ghana. On the average, 40 million Ghana cedis yearly goes into private pockets. Well, and the funny thing is that they do not even have all the vehicles. I'm telling you, all the vehicles that they need, haven't zoned the country. They don't have all of them. So we are starting with a deficit. So at all costs, certain vehicles are going to be on the road and they're not going to be towed. You have given them the authorization to go out there and employ others that they may so desire. Watch this. They will choose, I want you to help me. What if they choose nobody and tell you that we are doing our job? What do you do?
Well, and your parliament passed the law, the LI that actually made the allocations. Parliament passed this law in 2012. And your parliament did absolutely nothing. There was actually no known debate because we never knew about it. But nonetheless, Parliament passed this law. And yesterday, if you followed News File, there was a former member of Parliament who actually acted surprised about the allocation of the quantum of money that is supposed to go to these private firms that will be doing the towing. Did Parliament fail the people in passing this bill without scrutinizing? Because it's at the LI anyway, so it probably was not subjected to any debate. They just went and laid it before Parliament, and then it matured.
You see, like we spoke earlier on about the vetting, the quality of the people sometimes we put across. A member of Parliament is feigning surprise at this amount.
Yeah. In fact, when he was told that this bill was passed when he was in Parliament, he was surprised.
How many parliamentarians do we have in this country? I'm saying that if we
275.
Thank you. If we get 50 of them, let's get 50 of them to be let's just be paying them to be scrutinizing our laws and the kind of things we put on paper for them. Why is he surprised? He
didn't appear to be aware because it's an ally.
He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know.
No, let me just say this thing here. LIs have something, yes. If Parliament decides that the LIs are not good,
they can return it.
They can ask you, they'll reject it, you take it, work on it, and bring it back. There's a subsidiary legislation committee of Parliament. It is their responsibility to look through the LIs. So the subsidiary legislation committee of Parliament would present its report to the House recommending that this bill, this LI, sees the 21 sitting days. Of course, they recommended. So again, the members of that committee,
call into question.
You must call into question their competencies. Because if you would see this and pass it through, then I'm beginning to believe what Mama Yarega said.
Don't say anything explosive on my show.
I haven't said anything.
He has not said anything. He's only telling
I am just cautioning.
I'm beginning to believe.
In fact, I will appeal again to come and fire
you have joined Winston in advocating that this contract
must be abrogated.
But that will be the second time that this contract has suffered.
Because it's a bad law, it's a bad agreement. Boss,
there was an original...
This is not perpetual law.
Hold on, there was an original
it's human
contract.
beings like myself and you who sat down to draw this. Now you are asking us, the public, to pay between 20 and 200 Ghana cedis. Do you understand what that means?
Do you have a problem that motorbikes too will pay?
Motorbikes?
Yes.
You see, I love this country so much because, you see, our leaders and the people who are supposed to be serving us have acquired all the nice degrees, not in this country, outside of this country. I've seen all the niceties out there, but they come here, unfortunately, and do the reverse. You understand what I'm saying?
But there are
and do the reverse, because you are telling me a committee has sat on this agreement. And I don't need, you see, the people who put the laws of this country together, the constitution, the 1992 constitution, was not put together by the big brains. They were put together by the market woman, the canoe peddler, the kayayo. The locals put, and they said, it is us. We turn around, we go and slap these people in the face and say, me a big. Who told you that? We are joking. Boss, I'm saying that the police have been traditionally performing this duty.
You have made that point.
I am only reiterating it. I'm saying that
reiterated it many times,
it is thievery, it is stealing, it is pure stealing. It is an opportunity for somebody to sit back and do nothing and put his hands.
They have spent money
at the
to
back.
buy. They have spent money to buy.
How many of the boss? As I'm talking to you now, the police, the Ghana Police Service, has more towing cars than any other private entity put together.
That cannot be the case.
No,
because
they tow
I
all
used to go to the MTTU. They had just two. They had just two
in
vehicles.
Accra. You have not been to the other regions. You have been to the MTTU.
What they tend to do is use the Land Rovers. These small Land Rovers. That's what they used to tow a lot of the vehicles.
Let me tell you something.
But let me talk to Winston.
I am saying that, given that this, and you see, the sad part is, have we signed this contract?
Yes, the contract has been signed.
It has been signed.
Yes, it was
see,
signed. It
myself
was signed by the previous government.
Have been locked. It has been locked because we are failing to. You see, you are asking me to sound very nice, but
We
you see, the contract is the language of the contract itself smells. It doesn't even sound normal, and you are asking me to speak normally to this, to sound very normal to our viewers in the house, and sound normal to myself and you. And
we know how you
on
feel.
This evil that is about starting.
We know
the
how
people don't even have the vehicles. They don't. We are starting on what?
Some. Remember that Winston, they bought these vehicles in 2011. Some of the vehicles were bought in 2011.
And they threaten us we're going to pay judgment debt if you don't get them to start work.
Judgment debt for what?
The state were supposed to work with the police to tow the vehicles. There was an original version of this contract, and you followed News File yesterday. Kofi Benton was referring to it. In that contract, they were supposed to employ people, just like they have employed another subsidiary. They were supposed to employ young people who would have been paid by the government. And the company,
who is paying them? The government is paying the drivers.
Those ones, the company, no, not this original contract. The earlier one, they were supposed to employ people, young men, about tens of
thousands,
hundreds or thousands of young men, and the government would have paid those ones. Those employees would have been paid by the government. That contract also vested in them a monopoly status. That means no other private company would have done towing in this country. I think somewhere along the line they realized that this was inherently bad, and then they abandoned it and then redrafted what has been signed, which is now going to be used.
Are you smiling?
So, can't we see that an effort is being made to solve a problem?
There's no effort being made here. Unfortunately, there's no efforts being made. It's the same thing. I mean,
it's the same thing.
Except that this time you've asked them they could sublet it to other people. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that they would sublet it. Okay. My point is simply this, and I've said this before. You don't need a private entity to do this. Okay. You need the state to do so. If you have
but we
problems,
know that the state has
by
failed.
The state, they have failed because they
failed.
did not have the logistics. If you are prepared to put
the
this
state has
money,
not failed at all.
Look, I would tell you something. This is supposed to be what? A PPP or what?
Yes,
public-private.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's look at the studies that they did. And you would find that if they did proper studies, they realize that it would be better off giving this to the police than giving it to a private entity. Okay? Because you do so. I mean, how much did it cost them to purchase those towing vehicles? That for 20 good years,
cheap money to somebody.
You're giving this institution money from you and I, seated here. You and I. So from the 1st of July, if I go to renew my roadworthy certificate, I will be asked to pay additional money for towing. Have you seen, I mean, we asked a very simple question. Have you seen the garages they're talking about? The last time they said the garages were under construction, they have zoned the country. It's the same thing. It is the same thing. We will go and come back and say the same thing. My point is simply this: abrogate, look for money, let us pay those monies, give it to the police to do a better job.
Olanya, you agree that you are willing to pay as long as the contract will be handled by the states or state agencies, the police, the district assemblies.
You know what? You see, when we talk about obvious situations and we try to use legality and nice language to try to cover some of these things, some of us, people feel some of us are a bit too pedestrian or a bit too loud on certain issues. I'm only asking a question. Traditionally, who has been performing this job?
And you answered that.
No, I'm saying, no, you've asked me a question, so I'm answering. It is the Ghana Police Service that has been doing this. If they're having any challenge and you feel as a state or entities, you feel that the police probably could even do more, why not channel this money to the police? Boss, by the way, let me put this across.
Will we not be saddling the police who's too much?
It's their responsibility.
It is already part of their job.
It is their job. Let them do it.
They're already doing the thing. So why? You see, I'm saying that the danger with this contract, what we are going to tell the police is that police, if you're on the road and there's a car there, don't bother yourself. Drive by, let people come and die because there's another company behind you, entity behind you, that is coming to tow that car.
So we should give the job to the police. It is a
danger. It is a risk. In fact, boss, we have dug a big hole and we are asking ourselves that let us go and fall in it and see whether we will die or we will survive.
We will not fall in it. Let's talk about Occupy Ghana. So Occupy Ghana decided to go to court because they had insisted that in the Constitution, the Auditor General has powers to disallow and surcharge public office holders who engage in financial transactions that are not in accordance with law.
Another casualty.
And over the years, since 1992, when Ghana returned to democratic dispensation, no Auditor General has exercised this power, the Occupy Ghana argues. So they went to court. They tried to get the previous Auditor General to exercise his powers. It didn't happen, so they went to court. Now the Supreme Court has made declarations upholding the release that were sought by Occupy Ghana that say the Auditor General is mandated to order or to surcharge or disallow any transactions that have been done in contravention with the law. Let me start with you, Winston. Have we taken a step forward in dealing with the problems of financial malfeasance in this country?
Well, it might look like we have. It might look like we have. But of course, if there's a provision in the Constitution that says the Auditor General should do so, I mean, if you look at Article 1877B, may disallow any item of expenditure which is contrary to law and surcharge the amount. And the Auditor General hasn't done this all this while. Now, it's a step forward. At least now the Supreme Court says you must. This is more like me.
Yeah, the Constitution says may.
Now the Supreme Court says you must. Great. But did I hear the current Auditor General lauding the, the ruling of the Supreme Court?
Yes.
It's an indictment on him. It's an indictment on him.
No, but to be fair.
Hold on.
You hold on, Winston. To be fair, we have been told that this Auditor General he took this provision from Ghana's Constitution and made sure that it was incorporated into the laws in Zambia, and he actually enforced it. We are also told that since he became Auditor General, remember that he was appointed by President John Mahama in the dying minutes of his presidency, that he has demonstrated clearly a determination to enforce this
by disallowing and surcharging.
Yes, and he has actually taken steps.
Which entities has he disallowed and surcharged?
He named a number of companies that they targeted, and they found out that those companies had actually paid back the money to the state.
They targeted, and they found out that they had paid the monies to the state.
Yes.
Remember
that he was just appointed in 20.
I want the company that he himself. No, I am saying that I want a company that he himself has surcharged and disallowed. You see, my point is simply this. I've been having conversation with some people who took this up. I don't want to bring their conversation out, but if I were to show you, I could show you the conversation. It's obvious that it's an indictment on the Auditor General. I'm surprised he's happy, he's excited about this. This is something that he should have been doing all this while.
No, but he's new. You have to give him that.
Please.
He's new.
6 months is not new.
Come on, he's new.
Why was he appointed?
6 months is
new.
new.
He was not appointed based on a certain record?
6 months
is the job new?
He was appointed based on his track record.
Malik, are you saying that 6 months is
new?
The
job is not new to him.
6 months, he's fairly new.
Boss,
he's fairly new. And that if you were put in this position,
he actually hasn't. I'm not sure he has
Malik,
actually audited
I'm sure no, if you were put
in 6 months, can Multi-TV put you on probation for 6 months?
Malik, if you were put in this position and you failed after the first week, I am sure they would tell you that, you know what, Malik, step aside.
That's it.
Your performance should be at a certain level. Then they say, okay, so Malik is a good person. Let's help him improve. But if you come and you fail, so 6 months is a long time for the Auditor General to now turn around and say, but the good thing is that now that we have the verdict, now it's supposed to go for all of them. Everybody who was paid monies that he didn't deserve, he must be made to refund the money. And not only refund the money, with interest. Let us not do another way.
In fact, the court says that the Attorney General must take steps to
yes, but I'm saying that let us not do another way and say that 51 million refund, and that's the end of the story. Refund, but with interest. For me, it's as simple as that. And now that we have Occupy Ghana has gone to court, I am hoping that other institutions like the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority and SEPS, the GRA, would also do their work well, so that we will not, because we lose an estimated 36 billion Ghana cedis at the port annually, and our total revenue for the year is just around that figure.
Yeah, it's 45. Okay,
oh, well, no, that's
government's total budget is 45 billion.
but we're looking at a revenue of around 37 billion, which we all do know we are not going to make that based on a lot of things that we have done.
Support.
And so, while it's a great thing that we have achieved, the Auditor General should be unhappy. It's an indictment on him and his predecessors. He's blaming them, but he's also supposed to be blamed. I don't know if there is any law that can say that for all these people not doing this, they had, caused the law some loss. I mean, they've caused a lot of financial loss,
Yeah,
all of these people. Some companies might have folded up, so you can't go back to them and take their monies. Some companies might have folded up. And again, it goes back to Parliament. It goes back to Parliament.
Parliament.
Oh, hold on. Public Accounts Committee, when they sit and they finish, the financial tribunal that's supposed to be set up to prosecute these cases.
We are told that has been set up.
Which cases have been prosecuted?
Well, that's the executive, because Parliament does not do prosecutions.
No, they are representatives.
But they don't have prosecutorial powers.
I am not saying they have prosecutorial powers, but I am saying that they are our representatives and they must hold the executive in check.
And you think they have failed in that?
They have failed woefully.
Walanyo, what do you make of the Supreme Court judgment and its contribution to efforts to stop wastage and financial malfeasance?
I am very sorry I'm going to sound this way to you, but I have to sound that way. Occupy Ghana have done very, very well. But one thing that I kept asking myself was, did we need Occupy Ghana to go to court to do this?
Well, because the constitutional provision said the Auditor General
You are occupying an office may.
Yeah, it said may. And to the extent that the Auditors General in the past had not exercised this power, precisely or primarily because the constitutional provision is may, which is not mandatory, Occupy Ghana thought that they should seek interpretation by the highest court of the land.
Malik, this thing is not going anywhere. I'm very sorry to sound like this. It's not going anywhere because it is law. The Supreme Court has spoken. But I can tell you that it's not going anywhere. This particular directive from the Supreme Court is not going anywhere because, you see, it doesn't sit very well even within the context of the politician to see this done.
So you're not very optimistic?
I am not very optimistic. I am not optimistic at all.
Okay.
That this because, you see, what
you have to wrap up for me. I have just 10 seconds.
What are the internal mechanisms that we have put in place to even check some of these malfeasance from happening? In all these government agencies, we have internal auditors. You understand what I'm saying? Who should even,
there's a suggestion that the current Auditor General is
what is he coming to audit? He was appointed by a government that was going off. He was appointed by a government that was going off. What is he coming to audit?
Maybe the current government has confidence in him, and I believe that he will do his work. Walanyo Nyanato is senior political reporter, Metro TV, and of course, the man with the sleek, nice voice, Winston Amwa, is morning show host, 3FM. Gentlemen, it's been great hosting you. Walanyo, you gave me a lot of trouble, but it's been worth it. I'm most grateful to you. They have been my guests. You have been watching Editors Forum on the Joy News channel. I believe that we have been able to bring light to some of the issues. God willing, next week, the pretty-faced Gifty Ando Apia will be here. And until then, my name is Malik Abbas Dabu.